In the early hours of September 2, 1666, a small blaze began in a bakery on Pudding Lane in the heart of London. Little did anyone know that this fire would grow into a monstrous inferno, ravaging the city and leaving an indelible mark on its history. This was the beginning of the Great Fire of London, a 4-day catastrophe that would reshape the city forever. The Great Fire of London, which began in the early hours of September 2, 1666, was a disaster of monumental proportions, unfolding with a speed and ferocity that caught the entire city off guard. The blaze started in Thomas Farriner's bakery on Pudding Lane, a small spark that would ignite one of the most significant events in London's history. The initial spread. The fire initially seemed controllable, but a combination of factors led to its rapid expansion. The buildings in London at the time were predominantly timber-framed and tightly packed, allowing the fire to leap easily from one structure to the next. Moreover, the houses often had jetties upper stories that projected out over the lower ones, creating a bridge for the flames. The role of the weather. The summer of 1666 had been exceptionally dry, leaving the wooden structures of London parched and highly combustible. A strong east wind that night further exacerbated the situation, propelling the fire westward across the city with alarming speed. Failed attempts to control the fire. Efforts to quell the blaze were chaotic and ineffective. In the absence of a formal fire brigade, the fight against a fire was primarily led by local citizens and the trained bands of London, a militia group. They used primitive methods such as bucket chains, but their main strategy was to create fire breaks, demolishing houses in the path of the fire to prevent its spread. However, these efforts were hampered by poor coordination and delays in decision-making. The Lord Mayor of London, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, hesitated to order the demolition of houses, a decision that would later be criticized for allowing the fire to spread more widely. Destruction of iconic landmarks. As the fire raged on, it consumed some of London's most famous structures. St. Paul's Cathedral, a landmark of medieval London, was one of the most significant losses. The cathedral, covered in scaffolding for repairs, caught fire on September 4. Its lead roof melted and poured down the streets, and the building itself was reduced to ruins. The human experience. The human cost of the fire was immense. While the official death toll was surprisingly low, the true extent of the loss of life remains unknown. The fire left an estimated 70,000 of London's 80,000 inhabitants homeless. Eyewitness accounts describe scenes of panic and despair as residents fled their homes, many losing all their possessions. The displacement created a refugee crisis within the city, with many seeking shelter in makeshift camps on the outskirts. Halting the fire. The fire was finally brought under control on September 5, thanks primarily to two factors: the wind dying down and the successful creation of fire breaks by demolishing houses using gunpowder. This more drastic measure proved effective, helping to finally contain and extinguish the blaze. In conclusion, the unfolding of the Great Fire of London was a complex interplay of architecture, weather, and human response. The catastrophe not only reshaped the city's landscape but also left an indelible mark on its collective memory, serving as a stark reminder of the destructive power of fire and the necessity of preparedness and urban resilience. The aftermath of the Great Fire of London presented a monumental challenge, but also an unprecedented opportunity to reimagine and rebuild a major city. This period was marked by both immediate responses to the crisis and long-term planning that would influence urban development for centuries to come. Immediate response. In the immediate aftermath of the fire, the priority was to provide relief to the thousands left homeless and destitute. Temporary shelters sprung up on the outskirts of the city. King Charles II, recognizing the gravity of the situation, ordered the distribution of food and supplies and provided tents and makeshift housing. He also encouraged the dispersal of the homeless to surrounding areas to alleviate the crisis in the city. Surveying the damage. Before rebuilding could begin, the extent of the damage had to be assessed. John Evelyn and Sir Christopher Wren, among others, were tasked with mapping the ruins and proposing ideas for the new city. Their maps and sketches from this period provide a valuable record of the extent of the devastation. Wren's vision for a new London. Sir Christopher Wren, the famous architect, played a pivotal role in the reconstruction. He presented an ambitious plan to redesign London with wider streets, large public squares, and modernized infrastructure. His vision included a city with orderly and spacious streets, inspired by the grand urban designs of Paris and other European cities. Although his grandest schemes were never fully realized due to legal and financial constraints, his influence on the rebuilding was profound. Rebuilding the churches and St. Paul's Cathedral. Wren's most enduring legacy is in the churches he rebuilt, most notably St. Paul's Cathedral. The new St. Paul's, with its magnificent dome, became a symbol of London's resilience and renewal. Wren designed over 50 churches in the city, each unique and collectively representing a remarkable contribution to London's architectural heritage. Legislation and new building regulations. The Rebuilding Act of 1667 was a crucial piece of legislation that guided the reconstruction process. It mandated that new buildings be made of brick or stone instead of wood, significantly reducing the risk of future fires. The act also set regulations for street widths and the alignment of buildings, contributing to a more orderly and navigable city. Economic and social impact. The fire and the subsequent rebuilding had significant economic implications. The cost of reconstruction was enormous, leading to the establishment of the fire court to resolve disputes over property and the costs of rebuilding. Socially, the fire transformed the demographics of the city, with many of the poorer inhabitants unable to afford to rebuild and moving to other areas, while wealthier citizens and businesses took their. The changes implemented in the wake of the fire, wider streets, better building materials, and improved infrastructure, set a precedent for modern urban development. The tragedy demonstrated the importance of effective urban planning and building regulations, lessons that would influence city planning worldwide. In summary, the aftermath and rebuilding of London following the Great Fire were a time of immense challenge, creativity, and transformation. The city that emerged from the ashes was more modern, resilient, and thoughtfully designed, setting a standard for future urban development. The legacy of this period is still visible in London's streets and skyline, a testament to the city's ability to rebuild and reinvent itself in the face of disaster. The Great Fire of London in 1666 had a profound and lasting impact on urban planning, not only in London, but also in cities around the world. This tragic event served as a crucial turning point, leading to significant advancements in the design and management of urban spaces. Revolution in building regulations. One of the most immediate impacts of the fire was the introduction of new building codes. The Rebuilding Act of 1667 and subsequent legislation mandated the use of fire-resistant materials like brick and stone, replacing the timber-framed buildings that had fueled the fire. These regulations also covered the width and layout of streets, with an emphasis on creating straighter and broader thoroughfares to serve as effective fire breaks and to facilitate better access for firefighting. Birth of fire safety measures. The fire led to a greater focus on fire safety measures in urban design. The establishment of organized and professional firefighting services was a direct response to the inadequacies revealed by the fire. Building designs began to incorporate features aimed at preventing the spread of fires, such as thicker walls and fire-resistant roofing materials. Influencing urban design principles. The reconstruction of London post-fire influenced urban planning principles worldwide. The ideas of systematic city planning, with regulated building codes and consideration for public safety and welfare, became central to urban development. Wren's proposals, though not fully implemented, inspired future urban designs, emphasizing wide streets, public squares, and systematic layouts. Encouraging civic involvement in planning. The fire and its aftermath also encouraged greater civic involvement in urban planning. The need for effective governance in rebuilding efforts highlighted the importance of public input and cooperation in urban development processes. This set a precedent for more participatory approaches to city planning. Shaping modern urban aesthetics. The architectural style that emerged in the rebuilt London, characterized by uniformity and the use of brick and stone, influenced urban aesthetics well into the modern era. The Georgian and Victorian styles, which followed, owe much to the principles established in the reconstruction of London. Spurring innovations in infrastructure. Beyond building design, the fire also spurred innovations in urban infrastructure. The reconstruction led to improvements in road layouts, sewage systems, and public amenities, laying the groundwork for modern urban infrastructure systems. Catalyzing changes in other cities. The lessons learned from the Great Fire were not limited to London. Other cities in Europe and around the world took note, implementing similar urban planning reforms to prevent such disasters in their own locales. This marked the beginning of a more proactive and prevention-focused approach to urban planning on a global scale. In essence, the impact of the Great Fire of London on urban planning was transformative. It catalyzed a shift towards more thoughtful, safety-oriented, and systematic urban design principles, many of which continue to shape our cities today. The legacy of the fire is evident not just in the streets of London, but in the fundamental way we approach the planning and building of cities around the world. The legacy of the Great Fire of London extends far beyond its immediate impact. It transformed London from a medieval city of narrow streets and wooden buildings into a modern metropolis with improved living conditions and a more rational urban layout. The fire also became a symbol of resilience and renewal, a testament to London's ability to rise from the ashes and rebuild stronger than before. In summary, the Great Fire of London was not just a tragedy, but also a turning point. It spurred changes that shaped modern urban life, highlighting the importance of effective city planning and fire safety. Today, the rebuilt St. Paul's Cathedral stands as a symbol of this transformation, a beacon of London's enduring spirit in the face of adversity.